Hi guys. Today I want to do a speed run of setting up Termux on my phone. I've set up Termux a number of times on my Android smartphone and I have to do it again. Not because there's anything wrong with Termux, but because it's just something that I wanted to do. So that's not too important, but I figured this is a good opportunity to go through the general process and show you a really quick overview of what Termux can do for you on your smartphone. There are a lot of smartphones in the world, right? Some people, don't have access to or as much access to traditional computing devices like laptops and things like that. So maybe they feel like they can't do some technical things, that people typically associate with like a desktop computing device, such as a laptop. But you can actually code on your phone, and that's what this is about. This is about installing and generally configuring Termux. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not affiliated with the Termux project. I'm just an enthusiastic user. So if you want to learn more about Termux generally, you can check this out on Wikipedia. There's a lot of good information on here, along with a link to their website. As you can see, it is GPL program. So basically what it is it's an Android application that kind of emulates a lot of features that are commonly found on Linux systems. So it's like a terminal emulator, kind of. Now, it's not exactly the same, right? Because there are other IDEs out there, such as Replit on the web, and they also have a really cool web app. Maybe I'll do some videos in the future on that. In that case, your REPL, for example, is actually backed by a virtual machine with a real grown-up type of CPU, right? The limitation with Termux is when you execute a program in Termux, it is executing it on your mobile processor, the ARM processor in your phone. So there are some limitations. There are just some tools out there that aren't made for or compiled yet for mobile devices. But nonetheless, it is a very powerful tool. So the one thing that I will show you before we get started is you can find Termux on Google Play, but there are some issues, and I'm not going to go into it, but do not download the version from Google Play. Always download the version from F-Droid, because those are going to be the latest version of Termux and all the features. And the same goes for all the add-ons. So F-Droid you can find it here on this website. It's just another app, just like Google Play Store for downloading software and installing it on your phone, except instead of randomly downloading an APK file, which I guess you could kind of think of it if you're from like the Windows world, like a .exe file, right? That's kind of like an APK file is the Android app format, right? And instead of downloading random APKs to install, which is entirely possible, it's probably better to do it through F-Droid, right? So they do update the versions of Termux on F-Droid. So that's that website. So make sure, I'm not going to go through the installation of F-Droid. So in case you miss it, this is the link to the Termux wiki. And there is a lot of good information on here. So there is a chance that if I don't answer your question, that the answer is some here in the documentation. I'm not going to go through everything that's in the wiki. That's not feasible for one video. But these are the general recommendations for your device. These are the add-ons. I would just recommend that you install all of the add-ons, right? And you can find these add-on features in the form of other apps on the F-Droid store that you can install. All right. So let's get going. I have all this stuff installed already. So I'm just gonna hop over into Termux and boot it up. Now this is what you're gonna see. It's a text-based interface, although you can install graphical user interfaces to use like this, and that seems like a better task for a future video. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to run Termux setup storage. All right, you're just going to type it in just like that. The little $sign and the tilde character over on the left side there, that's just the terminal prompt. You don't type that in, that pops up automatically. So you're going to type Termux setup storage, and that's going to do all the stuff that Termux needs to do. It's going to prompt you, I think, for permissions, right? And so you can find more about that on the wiki, so we're just going to run that right away. Click allow. Make sure. Okay, so it looks like it did execute. So we're good. We're good on that. Now let's go over the basics of. Actually, before we do that, let's just install all the software that we're going to need. And then I'll go over the commands and how to navigate this, right? For those who are unfamiliar, it'll be like a little quick, cheap-ass intro to Bash, right? But anyways, let's go PKG. Now, if you're coming from the Linux world, in the Linux world, on, for example, Ubuntu, you're going to use a package manager called apt to install things, okay, and you might have to use sudo. Okay, you don't have to do that on here. This, I think that the Termux package manager is called PKG, but it's customized for this app. It's like a customized version of apt, I think. But basically all you need to know is there are a few commands to familiarize yourself with. Upgrade, to upgrade all the packages you have installed. Install, or even just the shortcut PKG space I, followed by the package name or the app name that you want to install. And then we have search, if you want to search for particular packages, right? So like, let's say you wanted to search for, I don't know, Git. And then it will show you all the, oh, what did I, oops, my mistake. So yeah, and here's another tip. You can just, sorry about that. So here's another tip. You can just press the up button to access the last, and you can keep going and access the last commands that you ran. So you can go pkg search git, and then it's going to show you all the packages here that are available. And the green text is what you would put in as the package name to install. Okay, so I have a list of packages here. But first what we're going to do is we're going to go pkg upgrade and then 2 ampersand symbols and a space. And what that means is only execute. So it'll execute this pkg upgrade, and then if this executes successfully and doesn't run into any errors, then the and means go ahead and execute the next command. If it fails, then it will not. An alternative way, I think, I haven't really found a good use case for this yet, but you can also do, I think this is the syntax, or, so like, you know, if you want this first part to execute and then the second part to execute only if the prior part fails, I'm pretty sure that is how you would do it. But we don't need to do that right now, so we're just going to go pkg upgrade and then to update all of our existing packages. And then I have a list of packages here. And I'll put the names of the packages. I'll tell you what they are as we go. Man is stands for manual. It's the old Linux tool for viewing the man pages of, or the manual pages of software that you install. So have to make sure that this is installed, and we're gonna need it. Zip probably, unzip. I don't know if that's a separate tool. Probably not, but just in case, you know what? We'll install that if we need to. I'm pretty sure unzip is not a separate one. Gzip. So these are tools for zipping up folders. Git, which is used for version control, and so that's required if you want to do coding on your phone, probably. The GitHub CLI is a package called GH. Now, some of this is going to be opinionated, but, you know, you can do your own research and decide what programs you think you might need. Actually, you know what? We're going to make sure that we install Python. There are 2 versions of Python, generally speaking, Python 3 and Python 2. The Python 3 is the Python package name, right? If you want to install Python 2, I think it's called Python 2. But if you need to verify, you can do a pkg search Python, and then it will show you the different options. But I need Python 3, so I'm going to put that one in there. ImageMagick. This is a great tool, and maybe I'll do videos about it in the future. It's a great tool for basically manipulating images from the command line. So you can do easy things that normally you might do a web search right on Google for a random website to convert between image formats. Don't do that anymore. You can just use ImageMagick, and I promise it's not that difficult. It's just a great thing to have around. FFmpeg is kind of like ImageMagick, but it's for video files. What else do we need? We're gonna need Clang, which is a C and C++ compiler. We're gonna need Make and CMake, which are also for compiling. We're gonna need Node.js, which is for JavaScript development. And the package that we want is Node.js-LTS. It's going to be version 16.14.2. And then mscripten. Also, there's a package. That's for compiling C and C++ and things like that to WebAssembly. Something I'm interested in, so I'm just going to go ahead and install that right away. And finally, we need to install a text editor. I'm going to install neovim. You don't have to install neovim. Other options are you could do Vim, or you could do Nano, or you could do Micro. These are all text editors. There's other ones out there. These are the ones that I recommend. So neovim and Vim are a little bit advanced. And you know, it's kind of it'll be a little bit of a journey for you if you haven't done them before. But I'm a fan personally, so that's the one that I'm going to use. If you just need something that works for now and then you want to experiment with Vim at a later time, you can do that too. You can install multiple text editors. Vim, if you want to know how to use it, just install Vim, and then it will also install a program called Vim Tutor. So then you can just run the command Vim Tutor, and it will take you through like an interactive thing on how to use the editor. And you're not going to get it all and memorize it all in one day or one session, but you know, it takes maybe a half an hour or less to go through the Vim Tutor. And if you do that every day for a few weeks, I promise your whole life will change, and you'll be looking for Vim key bindings in every piece of software that you ever use ever again, including Microsoft Word. So just keep that in mind. Another one, it's making me nauseous even thinking about it, but we're not going to talk about that one. And then Nano is actually, I'm going to add Vim on here too, just because, you know, it's good to have it as a backup maybe. Nano is a WYSIWYG editor. That means what you see is what you get. So what does that mean? It's kind of like if you've ever used like WordPress, right? WordPress will have I haven't used WordPress in a very long time, but you know, the editor for writing your blog post, it's a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get. So, you know, if you put text that's bolded in there or however, or, you know, with an indent, that's what comes out on the other end. Nano is like that, except it's a command, like all of these text editors, it's based on using a text-based interface. And it has all of the controls on the screen so you can figure out what keys to press to save your file, or, you know, things like that. I've never used it, but I'm told that Micro is like the new version of Nano. I'm not installing either of those because I don't care. I don't want any of them. And there's one other, OpenSSH. This is for remotely accessing other machines that are running an SSH server. SSH stands for Secure Shell. So you use it to log in to another text-based interface on another machine, basically. I know for sure I'll end up needing that at some point. So let's go ahead and press enter and see how many errors we get, right? Okay, so it'll tell you this is all the stuff that's going to be updated. So we're just going to hit enter. You notice the Y up there when it said yes or no. I didn't enter anything and I just hit enter. Well, the Y was capitalized and the N was lowercase. So that means that Y was the default if you don't enter Y or N. So I just hit enter and let's see, what does it say? Configuration file. Install the package maintainers version. We'll say no. And if we run into any issues, then we'll go back to the docs. We'll debug this at a later. Message of the day. No, don't need that. Sources.list. Yeah, I think maybe this one will... Okay, so now this is going to install all the software that I told you about. And so you see, this is what I'm talking about. The Y is capitalized and the N is lowercase, so the default is yes. And it's going to use over a gig of storage, so keep that in mind. So we're going to hit Y and let it go and install all that stuff. And then when it's done installing, I'll show you the basics of how to use the bash shell. Bash is basically the language that you're using to manipulate things. It's the language that you're using to interact with this system. It stands for Born Again Shell. It's an old... Wait, there are newer shells that you can use, like Z shell. I think that's the default, maybe, on like Mac systems. But yeah, we'll you just use Bash for now, and I'll show you how to configure things a little bit, and I'll give you like a real quick overview of how to use Bash so that you can do basic things that you need to do to use a computing system, right? You need to know how to create files and how to, edit them and, navigate through the folders, or as they're called in the computer world, directories. You need to know all those things. So there we go. All right. So the first thing that you can do is, if you want to clear the screen, you can just type clear. Or I think Control L is also another option. So there we go. Now a few words before if you long press anywhere on the screen and tap more. Now this requires some of the add-ons, like the style add-on, which those are all free, but if you want to alter the style, you can see they have all these different ones. They have Grovebox in here, if you are familiar with that. I encourage you to experiment, but I think I'm going to choose Grovebox Dark. And then for font, I usually go with Fira Code. Why do I go with Fira Code? Because it has cool little ligatures. So that's what I'm going to do there. Now we'll just do clear and clear the screen. Now I'm going to show you how to navigate and do things. So this is probably one of the first commands. This is probably one of the first commands that people learn. LS stands for a list, I think. It's to list all the files and folders in the current folder that you're in. So how do you know what folder you're in? You can say PWD, which stands for Print Working Directory. It'll tell you that you're home. Now, you see the little $ and the tilde character over there? The tilde is a shorthand version of this, what PWD just spit out. Tilde stands for the home directory which you're in. So if you're ever inside of another one, such as personal is a... CD stands for change. So these are the two folders that I have in here. Personal, so you type CD, that's change directory. So if you want to go inside of another folder, you can go personal, or an equivalent. Well, we'll just keep it simple for now. So CD personal. And now if you do PWD, it shows you the same path except for personal. So you can see kind of how that tilde shorthand works. And now you could also go, how do you go back up? So you could go CD tilde, that's going to go back there. Also, just go back into personal. If you just type CD anywhere without any arguments or anything after it and hit enter, it's going to always take you back to the home directory. So if you get lost, that's a quick way to go back. Now, we need to talk about a single dot and two dots, right? So these are also shorthand, similar to tilde. But what they do is the dot is shorthand for whatever current directory you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in your home directory or you're in some other folder. Dot refers to whatever the long name is of the directory that you're in. So if I want to go into personal, remember before we did cd personal? Well, you can also do cd./personal. It means the same thing. It's going to go inside of that folder. Now now dot dot is its counterpart shorthand. It means the parent directory. So you could go cd dot dot, and then it's going to go back up to the parent directory. Or you could go, I've never tried this, you could go ./personal /. Okay, oops, sorry. Let's try that again. So /. So I think what this will do is it will go into the personal directory and then back into the parent directory of the personal directory, which is the one that we're currently in. So it actually shouldn't take us anywhere. And that's right, now we're still in the same place. So that's how you change directories. Now let's say you're like, I'm forgetting some of the options, right? Because each of these commands has a bunch of different options. So here's what you can do. You can go man ls, and then you can swipe up and down or use the arrow keys to go up and down. And if you want to search for how to do something, you could say, I want to find, how to list all of something, and it'll tell you, and you can just keep hitting N to find the next. So this is how you view documentation for commands. If there is no documentation for a particular command, like nothing comes up when you do this, another fail-safe is to be like, hey, ls -- help. A lot of commands just automatically put that in there as like a flag that automatically displays the same help. So yeah, you can see they do this too. Okay, so that's enough of that. Now we know how to get around. Now, how do you actually do things, right? Because, and here's a few additional things, right? So not all files are shown when you do ls. There are some that are known as hidden files on Linux systems. So if you do -a, that means also display hidden files and hidden directories. The way that a file is hidden or a directory is hidden is just by putting a dot at the beginning of its name. That's the convention on Linux systems, and the way that you can see them, is to do that L. So there's another flag that you should know about with listing files and things, and that's -L. That stands for long, and that's going to give you a long version of what each entry in your directory is. You can also combine the two, so you can do AL, so all files, and do a long listing of each one. All right, so what do these long listings mean? Well, on the left there you can see some of them start with a D. Those are directories. Some of the lines start with a dash. Those are just files. Then next to it there's going to be RWX, and some of them just have dashes. That is related to permissions for files and folders. I think that's a little bit in depth for what we need to get into today. But maybe that's something that I will revisit in the future. So now we know how to list files. Now, what if you want to view the content of a file, right? So let's, how do you create a file, first of all? So there's this command called touch. So I'm just going to touch a file named test.txt. You don't actually have to give it something, but just so it's less confusing for you, I'll say touch test.txt. Now we can see there is a file in there called test.txt. Now you can also now we're going to do the long listing. And I'm going to add an H, which means human readable. All that's going to do is make these long listings up here more human readable. So now we can see there's the text. The last entry is test.txt. It doesn't have much information on it, but you can see it says March 29, and it has a timestamp on it. So what this means is that's the last time that the file was accessed. Okay. So what happens if we run touch test.txt? Another way of saying this is /test.txt. Okay, what's going to happen? Well, let's list those again. And you can see the timestamp changed to the next minute. That just means that we updated the timestamp. So if a file does not exist, the touch command will create it. If it already exists, the touch command is literally going to do nothing else other than update the timestamp. So that's how we can... Oh yeah, and if you're looking for something, you can start typing it. You don't want to type the whole thing. You can just do tab, and there is some auto-completion features. We're using Bash, so it has basic auto-completion, but some shells, like Z shell, have much more advanced auto-completion features. So that's something to keep in mind. But we're just going to remove this. RM means remove. Be careful when you're using this command. All right, so we can see that it's gone. So we're going to make a hidden file, touch, and remember hidden files need to start with a dot. Let's say I think it's called bash profile. The reason that we're going to do this is because we need to configure some things, right? So before we do that, I just want to show you something. So there's an older way in the Linux world, a command called which. So you can type any command after which, and instead of executing the command, which will tell you, or it's supposed to tell you, where that program is located. Like, where does the file that program executes from, where does it live in your file system? Now, the problem with that is, oh, look at that. I was having issues with it. So on sometimes if you come up with an issue where you use which, and it'll give you the output that you're looking for. It tells you, oh, look, that's where in your file system that program is located. But it may also tell you something about which being like deprecated in another command. Another way to do this, I think, is command-v. Does the same thing, I think. And if you get that error, and you know, if you're like me, I have old habits, and the old habit is to use which. So if I ever encounter this, then what I do is I set up an alias. So how do you do that? What's an alias? Well, you can do one right from here. You can create an alias, and it's basically like renaming a command or creating like a shortcut name for a command. You can do it in your terminal, or you can add them to a file such as bash profile, and that's going to run when you set up your shell. That's a little bit advanced, and I guess we don't need to do that right now, so I'll save that for a future video. So we know how to remove things and create things. Now let's talk about the echo command. So if you say echo hello world in quotes, it'll just print echo. It'll print that out to the screen. Now, what if you wanted to put that text inside of a file? Well, you could just edit the file normally, or if you just want to, if you just want to quickly add that to a file, you can say the same, just go up, and then you can use a little caret character like that, and then the name of the file, test.txt. Okay, so what that means is that it put that information into that file. So how can we read that? A simple way is to use the cat command followed by the name of the file. Cat test.txt. And that's the contents of that file. So what if we want to add something to the end of that file? Well, let's go up here and we'll edit this. Hello world. We'll add something else. Greetings, Earthling. Okay, so now let's cat out that file again and see what's in there. Oh, look at that. It actually overwrote the whole file. So how do you cope with that? What if you just want to add something on to the end of the file? Well, one way to do that is, let's go back up. And instead of the single character, caret character, whatever they're called, you can do two of them, which that means to append to the file, right? And put it at this new text at the end of it instead of overwriting everything. So let's see if this works. There you go. And it even puts it on a new line for you. So that's how that works, cat and echo. Now, what if you want to move stuff around? Like, let's say you want to let's talk about yeah, let's try the move command. So the move command you could do. Let's say you wanted the move command. MV is actually how you rename files too. So let's say you didn't want to move the test file to another folder. You just wanted to teat. You just want to rename it. Well, you can do that here. So you could say test2. I guess that's, let's say you want to rename it my test or something with no extension. So we do that, and now, oops. Now you can see it basically just changed the name of the file. Now, let's say we wanted to move that file into another folder. So you could do my test, and then do ./personal. Now we don't see that file in here, but if we do an ls on the personal folder, there it is, it's in there. Same thing with, you could do cat personal, or what is it called, my test. There we go. Now here's another command. This is one of my favorites. This is like a really convenient way to read through longer files rather than catting it out to your terminal. There's an old command called less. So we're going to just go ahead and edit that command to say less instead of cat. And there you go. Now, if you can't actually do anything here really, but and to get out of this, you just press the Q button. But for longer files, it gives you a really nice interface where you can just press the down button and it will scroll through the whole file for you. So that's how you use the less command. Now, what if you want to copy, right? What if you don't want the original file to disappear to move stuff? So in that case, you can do a CP, which is the copy command, and then a dot for the current directory. So let's say we'll pretend to be German, I guess. Mein test. So copy the file named my test from the personal folder into the current directory, the current folder, which is the home folder, and call it that. So let's see if it did it correctly. You can see the contents of it, and we should be able to see the original file is still in that personal folder. So that's about it. I think for basic commands, we'll remove these test files. Now, how do you create and destroy folders? So let's create a folder. It's called mkdir. It stands for make directory testdir. Now we'll be able to see that right in here, and you'll be able to change into it. You can go back out of it, and now we can also remove directories with the rm command, but it really only works if the directory is empty. So let's just touch a file in there to show you that. Testdir, and we'll call it 1, and then we'll say rm testdir. Now it should fail. Cannot remove it because it's not empty, but I think there is a flag that we can use if you do -f, or is it rf? There we go. Now it removed it. Just be careful with that. You can wreck your system by doing that. But if another way to do it that is less, I guess, problematic and touchy is if you know your folder is empty. Like this new one that I'm creating, you can also do rmdir. All right. So there you go. That is the basics of how you can do these things. Now I'm just going to wrap up this video by showing you what I add to my Vim let's see, my neovim config file. Usually, I'm just doing this from memory. I've done it so many times, but we're gonna create a hidden folder in here, and this has to be in a specific location. We'll do, yeah. Or actually, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's yeah, I've done it so many times. Okay. um, I've done it so many times. Yeah, you'll make mistakes, but you know, it's okay. So we're gonna make one called .config condig. Make one in here called nvim for neovim. And now we're gonna touch a file, create one called init.vim. I'm also not an expert on I guess I'll show you, well, yeah, I'll just do this with Vim. Init.vim. So these are the ways that I usually configure my Vim. Set number to show numbers on the left. Sorry, this is how I usually configure neovim. Set relative number, which is handy. Relative number tells you how many lines you are from a particular thing on the left side. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see what I mean. Set auto indent. These are just, there's plenty of people on YouTube, I guarantee, who are better than me at, setting up and theming Vim and neovim. I'm just showing you the stuff that I usually do. To make it a better editing experience. But yeah, you feel free to use any of this if you want, test it out. I could do how to use Vim, I guess, in another video. But this is just the stuff that I like to do. So yeah, Vim is something called a modal editor as opposed to a WYSIWYG. What that means is there are different modes, which for the editor, right? So all the keys on the keyboard, they do different things depending on what mode you're in. And it sounds complicated, but I promise you that it is a much more rational way of editing in a command line, in a text-based environment, I guess you could say. Almost done here, just 3 more lines. All right. So, all right. So I edited that file, and now let's test it out to see if no mapping found. Looks like I messed up some things. I did mess up some things. That's okay. I'll fix it later. But anyways, yeah. So that's, oh, and there's one other thing that I'll show you. So if you don't have this above your Google keyboard, your Gboard, or whatever keyboard you use, these additional buttons, there is a configuration file, and you can edit it with Nano or whatever editor you want. But this additional file will allow you to add those additional, those additional like buttons. There's a lot of different options. So if you noticed when we did the long listing, there's actually Termux folder .termux. So we're gonna go in there, cd.termux, see what's in here. All right, and then the file that we need to edit is the Termux properties file. So if you scroll through here, there's all kinds of things, right? These pound symbols or hash marks at the beginning, those are comments, right? So if you want to something, those are comment marks. So that means that the configuration thing, the configuration thing, like for example, this volume keys, volume thing, it's not gonna get picked up, right? So if you scroll in down here, here it is. So yeah, they have a bunch of different options here for, or maybe that's not a, I guess that's a better question for the Termux people. I guarantee they have stuff about this file on their wiki. But I've droned on long enough. If you want to add these additional keys to your keyboard, you can do that in here. And that's how you do that. There's a lot of different things that you can configure in here. I'm just going to exit though because I have it set up the way that I want to. And I guess I would say that's about it. If there are additional questions that you have, feel free to ask me. But in the future, yeah, I'd like to make more videos about Termux and how to do coding and stuff like that on here. If you're not really a technically minded person, that is fine. Maybe this isn't for you, but I think you'll be surprised by how much more value you'll get out of your smartphone just by doing this, right? We have Node.js installed now and Python installed now, and there's really amazing tools in those ecosystems, and also a lot of other cool tools just in the Termux package manager, things that ordinarily you might search for a random web tool on Google, or you might search for a random free app on the Google Play Store that you won't have to do now. And there's one more thing. This storage thing, it's like a link to the storage on your phone. So if you want to copy a file, say you have a file, like a txt file, and you want to copy it or move it to someplace else, like your file where your file manager app on your phone can get it, you just... Actually, I'll show you what's in this first. So if you ls on that storage, and this storage folder is only going to be here if you do that thing at the beginning of the video, Termux setup storage. You can see these are the folders. So like the downloads folder, that would be where you would move, or maybe one of these other folders. These are the places where you can copy files from here, right? Or copy files from there into your Termux so that you can edit them, right? I do that sometimes with image files. If I need to convert it to a different format on my phone, you can copy it back and forth, and it works really great. So yeah, this was not rehearsed, as you can see, but I've done this a lot of times, and I figured I would take you along for the journey this time. If you got anything out of this, that's awesome. But Yeah, if you have any questions or improvements, I am open always to comments and criticism and things like that. So if you have any troubles within a limited way, I guess I can help, if you have problems. But honestly, check out the Termux website and their wiki. It is